Hello everyone, today we are going to start talking about the scary places of Georgia, with Georgia being the fourth state of America, and the scary places of this list have some good history, which can make it all that scary despite its ghost. So you should know the drill from the other scary places of top 10. So here are the top 10 scary places of Georgia. Number 1. Heritage Hall, Madison. Heritage Hall was built in 1811 as a private residence until about 1977, and now it's a popular tourist spot in Madison, Georgia. The house is a Greek revival, and its aesthetic is why it's one of the most visited places in the city, but this old building has its hauntings. The most haunted room in the house is the master bedroom that is known widely as the ghost room. The story of the haunted bedroom goes, it is said a spirit named Virginia Nisbet haunts the room. The room is where she died in child labor giving birth, which happened in the early 1850s. For almost 50 years, there have been reports of ghostly sightings in the house. There even have been sounds of a baby crying, but there's no sign of a child in the building making the crying. With all this is why Heritage Hall is a hotspot for ghost hunters and other people who love the paranormal. Number 2. Oakland Cemetery, Atlanta. In Atlanta, Georgia, one of the city's cemeteries is called Oakland Cemetery, where locals of the area have been buried, and some famous figures of the area, Marilyn Jackson, Margaret Mitchell, and Bobby Jones, are buried there. And like any cemetery in a scary place, just because this is a place for dead bodies, it's obvious one of the factors to it being haunted. Since being founded in the 1850s, Oakland Cemetery has had reports of ghost activity, but they don't come from the well-known, which I mentioned up top. They seem to be at peace. Though who are not at peace at this cemetery would be the 3,000 soldiers of the Confederation from the Civil War, which are buried within the cemetery's grounds. Yeah, I wonder why they're not at rest. People who visit the cemetery say they see the soldiers in full uniform roaming the grounds or hanging from trees, and some have heard the soldiers doing roll call, which includes their names being called out. Number 3. Moon River Brewery Company, Savannah. Now, a lot of everyone, when it comes to talking about haunted places in Georgia and from what is known about hauntings in the state, saying that Savannah, Georgia is one of the most haunted cities there. In these locations have been seen a plethora of ghost shows. Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, BuzzFeed, Unsolved Supernatural series with the iconic groups all in between, and a bunch more Ghost Hunters. So we know Moon River Brewing Company is already considered haunted, whether you believe in ghosts or not. The building of the company was built in 1821 as a city hotel by Ellies early. It was also known as the first hotel in Savannah, but not only that, it was also the city's first United States postal office. This place was also used as a makeshift hospital during the yellow fever epidemic that hit the area. And during its hotel days, some famous figures stayed at the place. A War of 1812 hero, Wilfred Scott, Marquis de Lafayette, 3 commodores of the U.S. Navy, and naturalist James Audubon, who in the 6 months he stayed attempted to sell his books full of the wildlife sketches he created. Now for the hauntings, real quick, so we can get to the next of the list. There are cold spots, flying bottles of liquor, ghostly apparitions, and voices of children on the upper floor, which are claimed to be victims of the yellow fever when the building was used as a makeshift hospital, which shows why the building is haunted, and a bunch more evidence if you watch those ghost shows. Number 4. Murder Kroger, Atlanta. Now this is one of the hotbed locations for scary happenings, especially with the building that once stood in the current. Its surrounding area has had a bad history in general, which can tell why the place is considered haunted. But a unique location of a haunting on this list is that it was a Kroger supermarket that was in the area before it got demolished in 2016. But since its opening and some incidents that occurred at the location from 1991 to 2015, people were killed or found dead at the premises. And because of all that bad luck near the supermarket, there it became known by the locals as Murder Kroger. And attempts to rebuild it could not change its reputation. There's a whole Wikipedia article that talks about its crazy history, and you can go there to read more about this location. Number 5. Hay House, Macon. Also known as the Johnston Felton Hay House, but better known as just Hay House, this house is a 18,000 square foot mansion in Macon, Georgia, and has been under the National Historic Landmark since 1974, when it was declared a historical landmark for its unique architectural style. Built in 1855, 2 families have lived in the house, and it's now a museum. This place is also Macon's first ghost tour location. As it's said to be haunted, people report seeing ghosts, hear spooky sounds, and seeing objects move on their own. And in 2010, a photographer who was photographing a wedding on the site of the mansion claimed to capture a ghost on camera, creeping around the background and seeing a top hat, which people have also reported seeing the same top hat. Number 6. Lake Lanier, Northern Georgia. Okay, here's our haunted lake of the list. Lake Lanier, which is located in northern Georgia, a lot of people come to this spot every year, but the lake has a pretty big and also dark history, not because of drownings, boat accidents, and serious injuries which have happened on the grounds. The other things you can say are outright racial and suspicious if you're that type of person once, and I explained why. You see, Lake Lanier is a reservoir, a human-made lake, and from last time in my Pennsylvania list, of course a town must be sacrificed to make this river if it's in the way. And the town that had to be flooded was a town called Lawrenceville. Hope I said it right. Which was built until the 1950s when the reservoir was being built. The town was predominantly a black community, and Lake Lanier was made in the 1950s. There was also a violent racial conflict in 1912, which led to lynching. Whatever this says to you about the time, community, in town, and violence, you can see a bit of why this place is considered dark by those details of history. Although there are definitely good intentions for the reservoir, which protected Metro Atlanta from being flooded, it also is too much of a dark history, which makes it very bad. It's no wonder the lake has been known to be haunted and deadly. Since Oscarville was flooded, it's said the ghosts of the town's cemetery haunt the area, and this gives it a grade A of spookiness. Number 7. The historic Lawrenceville Jail, Lawrenceville. Here we have our jail on the list in Lawrenceville, Georgia. The historic Lawrenceville Jail has been said to be haunted for over 100 years. An urban legend says a slave named Ellies was attacked by his slave master when he tried to escape, and during the scuffle, Ellies tried to escape by climbing up a ladder of his quarters. The slave master follows him, but this ended up with the master falling off the ladder and plummeting to his death. Which sounds like a justified death, but since Georgia is in the South of America, the time period this happened in, to the people of this time and the status of Ellies being a slave, It was unfortunately not. Elwick was sentenced to death for the killing of the slave master. With a failed escape attempt from the Lawrenceville jail where he was held, he was chained until he was hanged. And the legend says that during his time in the jail before his death, he would sing a sorrowful song to his wife Betsy from his jail cell. People have heard him sing to this day during ghost tours of the jail. Number 8. St. Simons Lighthouse, St. Simons Island. On St. Simons Island is the St. Simons Lighthouse, which has been surrounded about it being haunted and the story on why due to the different accounts in how it happened. About 141 years ago, yes, that's how many years have passed for this story setting, two lighthouse keepers had an argument over their wives. The keepers, whose names were Frederick Osborne and John Stevenson, had their argument and Frederick dies. Now years later, people say at the lighthouse, Osborne haunts that place. He causes the lights to flicker, loudly walk up and down stairs, and be just an overall menace in ghost form. From visitors to the Coast Guardsmen when they perform maintenance on the lighthouse. Number 9. The Ellies Hotel, Atlanta. The Ellies Hotel, also formerly known as Rheinkauf Hotel, was built in 1913, but on December 7, 1946, a fire broke out and the hotel went up in flames, killing about 119 people, including the owners of the hotel at the time, William Fleming Rheinkauf and Grace Smith Rheinkauf, who were only 76 years old at the time. The hotel fire has gone down in American history books as being one of the deadliest hotel fires in history, so it's no wonder why people say it's haunted, especially from the victims of that downtown Atlanta fire. And although the hotel has been brought back to life as the Ellies Hotel, guests have claimed to smell smoke, hear screaming, or see apparitions while staying. The fire alarms have sometimes gone off on their own during the early hours in the morning, which start around the same time the fire happened and engulfed the hotel over 75 years ago. Number 10. Central State Hospital, Milledgeville. In Milledgeville, Georgia, the Central State Hospital is a well-known location for people who have seen the second season of American Horror Story. And I don't know if it's because of inspiration or was it a filming location. Can't really find an evidence on that. But the hospital in Milledgeville is one of the largest mental health institutions that still stands to this day in America, despite it being abandoned. 25,000 patients are buried on the property's 2,000 acres. It first opened in 1842 as Georgia Lunatic Asylum, and 5 lawmakers of Georgia have called the place Lunatic, Idiot, and Epileptic Asylum. The site is said to be haunted by the memories of the patients who were mistreated there. There were only 48 doctors and none of them were certified physicians, so no wonder why this place has such a bad rap and is abandoned as another reason for its creepy factor that from pictures of how it's become. And that's the scary places of Georgia in my top 10 scary places list. For the next scary places list, it's gonna be in a state where I have relatives that live there, so they are gonna be a lot of helpful to tell you about the most scary places in Connecticut. And be sure to check my community tab to make sure you get to vote for this list, where I pick out the most shocking ones to add to my mega list for scary places of all 50 states. Although, that's gonna depend if you're not watching this years into the future. But see you next time.